Good morning to everybody. My name is P. Priyadarshini from Sri Balaji College of Nursing. I am working as a associate professor from Obstetric and Gynecological Department. Today we'll discuss about the topic staff development and welfare. We'll see about what are the objectives of the staff development program. So at the end of the class, the students will be able to define what is staff development, what are the needs and goals of staff development, list out the objectives and functions of staff development, and what are the staff development models, and what are the types of staff development, discuss the functions and role of staff development personnel, and validate the standards of staff development, justify the potential difficulties, define staff welfare objectives, discuss the staff welfare activities. Now we want the introduction. So what is staff development program? It is a term that includes both formal and informal learning opportunities to assist individuals to perform competently in the fulfillment of role expectation within an agency. Now we'll see the meaning and definition. The staff development, it is a process directed towards the personal and professional growth of the nurses and other personnel while they are employed by the healthcare agency. It is also defined as a process of orientation, in-service education programs, and continuing education for the people of promoting the development of personnel within the employment setting. It consistent with the goals and responsibilities of the employment. This was given by the American Nurses Association. Next, we'll see about the needs of staff development program. So there are various needs. The main thing is societal change, and the main need for a scientific staff development is to promote societal change and scientific advancement and provision of opportunity for nurses to continually acquire and implement for maintenance of high quality of nursing care. And third thing is as a part of individuals' long-term career growth to add all the knowledge, skills, attitudes, ideals, and valued essential to improve skills. The next need is to fill the gap in the past performance and to change or correct long-held attitude of the employee, to move ahead and keep up the change. Fast changing technologies need to increase productivity and quality of work, to move employees and promote employee loyalty, fast growing organization. Now we'll see about the goals of staff development program. So the goals are to assist each employee to improve the performance in his or her behavior, assist each employee to acquire personal and professional abilities that maximize the possibility of career advancement. Now we see about the objectives. The objectives are to increase employee productivity, to ensure safe and effective patient care by nurses, to ensure satisfactory job performance by personnel, to help the employees to cope with new practices and roles, help nurses to close the gap between present abilities and the scientific basis for nursing practice that is broadening through research. Functions. Provide educational activities for all nurses employed by the healthcare agency directed towards change behavior related to role expectation. The next function, it is concerned with the growth and development of personnel from their initial contact with the healthcare agency until termination of services. So this is the staff development program model. So this is based upon the three components, that is education, experience, and socioeconomics. So first one is the education. So under education, so it includes extramural education, in-service education, continuing education, and post-basic nursing education. So these are the components under education. The next component is the experience. So under experiences, there are two things, that is nursing practice and other real life experiences. The third component of staff development program model is Socioeconomics. So under socioeconomics, it includes manpower planning, employee-employee relations, and counseling, career planning, performance evaluation. So these are the three components in staff developmental program model. So this staff development program model is being based upon the healthcare organization model. That is, the staff development program within the healthcare agency will provide a framework such as follows based upon the competencies. So there are three competencies based upon this healthcare organization model. So the first competency is assessing competency, and second is the maintaining competency, and third is the developing competency. So we'll see about the socioeconomics. So economics, under socioeconomics, it includes manpower planning, counseling, and employee-employee relations. So under manpower planning, the criteria includes recruitment, selection, and placement. So under counseling, it includes performance evaluation, career planning, and promotions. And the third thing comes under socioeconomic is the employee and employer relation. So this includes the personal politics and practices, health services, and labor relations. Next, we'll see about the experiences. The second component of in the staff development program model is the experiences. So under experiences, there are two things, that is real nursing practices and other real life experiences. So under nursing practices, it includes direct patient care and indirect patient care. So direct patient care, directly they have been approaching to the patient care. So approach of independent patient care, assignment or team approach. So they have been held in the direct patient care. Whereas indirect patient care, it includes supervision, administration, teaching, and research. So these are the things coming under the nursing practices. Now the second thing is the other real life experiences, which includes the colleague interactions, voluntary activities of healthcare, professional association and participants, and personal life experiences. So these are the things coming under the experience components. And next is the third component, is education. So under education, we have been seeing continuing education, in-service education, orientation, and the postgraduate education. So under continuing education, so it includes the skills, attitudes, and knowledge pertinent to the nursing practice within the healthcare team members. And the education also includes extramural education also. And post-graduation education, that is postgraduate. The name meaning itself, that is postgraduate, after education. So education after graduation or the basic education is called as the postgraduate education. Next, we'll see about the steps of the staff development program. So the steps should be followed correctly. That is, first thing is the assess. The first step in the staff development program is the assess. So what we have to assess? We have to assess what is the education needs of all the staff members. So after assessing, we have to set priority. So which is the first thing, which is the main thing, what is the priority, which should be given importance, that should be prioritized. And third thing is the develop the general objectives. So after assessing priority, the third thing is the developing general objectives for the staff development program. And the next fourth thing is the resources. So we have to determine the resources needed to reach the desired objectives. And the fifth one is the calendar. We have to develop a master calendar for an entire year. And next is the record system. So after assessing and prioritizing and resource allocating and master planning, we have to develop and maintain the staff development programs record system. And then next step is the establishing files on major educational topics. And next is that regularly we have to evaluate the staff development program. So these are the various steps in the staff development program. Next, we move on to what are the types of staff development program. So there are various types. So under first type is continuing education. So we'll see the definition. So what is continuing education? It is all the learning activities occur after an individual has completed his basic education. So this continuing education will occur after the individual has been completed his or her basic education. So this education which is built upon the previous education, that is the continuing education. So what is the need for continuing education? To ensure safe and effective nursing care. And the next need is to meet the needs of society and updating nurses' knowledge and prepare them for specialization, for career advancement, for new professional roles that are altered as society, changes and new technological emerge. And next need is developing wise leadership and competent practitioners. And next need is to acquire specialized skills to provide a variety of continuing nursing education programs in high quality and service changes. Next, we'll see about what are the types of continuing education. So now there is one is mandatory continuous education. So it is compulsory. Mandatory means compulsory. It is a compulsory with the registration like BSc nursing program. So it is must. That is mandatory means compulsory. Next type is voluntary continuing education. So it occurs only if the individual nurse is mature to make choice to acquire knowledge for scholastic reasons. Third thing is the formal education. So this formal education is include planned with specific and exclusive aims within an institution and advances. For example, MSc nursing. So this is a formal. So this is a planned with fixed and exclusive aims within an institution to advance learning, higher studies. And informal education. So informal education means continuing to learn while she or he has been practicing. That is informal education. This can be attained through in-service educational programs. Next, we see about the steps in continuing education. So under steps in education, the first thing is the orientation to the faculty, orienting, giving introduction to the faculties. Next is the management skill and leadership training. That is mentor, how they become into mentor. So management skills and the leadership training. And the third is the workshops and last the in-service training. So these are the steps in continuing nursing education. So now we'll see about the what is in-service education. So in-service education, it is a part of continuing education that is carried on within the work environment. It is provided by the employing organization to enhance workers' knowledge, skills, and attitudes. The main aim of this in-service education is to improve the quality of services. Now, next is the definition of in-service education. In-service education is defined as learning experiences provided in the work of setting for the purpose of assisting staff in performing their assigned functions in that particular agency. This in-service education is also defined as an education given to nurses while they are being in service for their professional growth. That is also called as in-service education. Now we'll see about the concept of in-service education. So the concept is it should have a planned educational activities and it should be provided in a job setting. It should be closely identified with services, and it should also help a person performance effectively as a personal work. So these are the main components of in-service education. Now we'll see what are the main aims of this in-service education program. The main aim is to provide better nursing care to all patients by improving the ability and knowledge of the staff. Main responsibility of the head nurse is professional growth of her staff, and the main aim is to improve the performance attitude of the particular employees. And the next aim is to assume responsibility for providing orientation, skill training, and continuing education for all her staffs. So these are the aims. Next, we see about the parts of the in-service education training program. So this includes again orientation, on-the-job training, ongoing education, and executive development. So these are the parts of the in-service education. So now we'll see one by one. Okay, first one is the orientation. So orientation. So this orientation consists of experiences designed to help the new worker becoming proficient as soon as possible. This orientation provides for verbal presentation of the information, physical tools, and also time to examine, descriptive materials, reports and procedures, and what are the policy manuals, and also introduction to personnel, to the work of the enterprises in general, and also to the orientation to the department, and also to orientation to the unit in particular. Next thing is the on-the-job training. So it is a maintenance and simplified nursing acts program, including supervised clinical practice that provides auxiliary workers such as nurses aides nursing assistants with the knowledge and skill necessary to do their jobs. It is also more economical and efficient to prepare personally centrally. And the third component is the ongoing education. So it is the most important part of the in-service education, in-service program. It helps to analyze. So it helps to analyze the specific points in the nursing care of the individual patients, gaps in nursing care that are to be reported, and reports on one or more patients admitted in 24 hours. And another things to analyze is importance of charting and new diagnostic tests, changes in nursing procedures, and review the procedures which are unfamiliar. Next is the executive development. So this executive development is mainly to develop the management skill in the nurses, which helps them to provide care, which includes the patient education and also incidental teaching. Next, we'll see about the steps in in-service education. So under this, the first one is assessment. So assessment, that is pinpoint needs, prioritize needs, set training objectives, and develop criteria. And next one is the implementation. So under implementation, it is a climatic check, actual conduction of training with ongoing monitoring. Next is the evaluation. So after implementing the program, we have to evaluate. So evaluation means establishment of criteria, and we have to give pre-test to the participants and also post-test following completion of the training program. Next, we'll see about the what are the skills for conducting this in-service training programs. So there should be there are seven basic skills that should be that should be specifically that should be followed. That is advanced training. There should be competency. There should be adequate knowledge should be there. Adequate learning facilities should be there, and adequate experienced staff should be there, and abilities and growth. So these are the 7 components in the in-service training programs. Next, we see about the training for specific function. So what is training? This is concerned with developing experts, technical or manual skills, communications, and helps the personnel to perform their functions effectively. The objective to help the nursing personnel to perform correct methods and procedures within understanding, establishing standards and quality of nursing services, procedures to skill the nurses. Skill training. Skill training means you have to an ability that has been acquired through training. So what are the skills to be acquired? Psychomotor skills, cognitive skills, teaching skills, affective skills, communicative skills, and supervisory skills. So these are the skills to be obtained during the in-service training program. Need for skill training. Individual nurse needed to have greater freedom to choose specific field of nursing in which she should work. Good work to be recognized and rewarded. Avenues of advancement and promotion need for better development to avoid unnecessary fears of making mistakes. Next, we see about the induction. So what is induction or induction training is nothing but after a candidate is finally selected, he is issued the appointment letter and requested to join the organization up to some specific period. The induction follows this step and is considered to be the part of hiring procedure. So we'll see the definition, formal definition for this induction training. So this may be defined as the socializing process by which the organization goals or objectives are absorbed by the individual for the achievement of the personal goals. What are the aims of induction training? To bring an agreement between the organizational goals and the personal goals of the person, to build the new employee's confidence in organization himself. The next aim is to promote a feeling of belonging and loyalty to the organization, its structures, products, rules and regulations. It also gives the new employee the picture about the organization to ensure the new employee may not have a false impression about the regarding the workplace. And also, it gives a new entrant or new idea regarding the physical structure of the organization. It also fosters a close relationship between the new and old workers and even also supervisors. They can able to connect the supervisors too. And the next aim is the induction of training program is to create a sense of security for the workers by assuring him the idea that fairness to the worker is the inherent policy in the organization. And the need is also of induction program is to avoid cost of replacing workers who separate during the early impression period due to lack of accurate information. So these are the aims of induction training program. Now we'll see about the forms of induction training. So there are three forms. First one is internship, preceptorship, and third one is the mentorship. So these are the three forms of induction training program. First one is internship. Internship, it works as an exchange of services for experience between the students and his or her employer. That is called as internship. Next one is the preceptorship. It is a short-term relationship between students as novice and an experienced staff, personnel or profession who provides individual attention to the students' learning needs and feedback regarding the performance. That is the preceptorship. And third one is the mentorship. Mentorship, that is, it is offered to support in a program in completion, confidence building, and transition into further education or work. Next is we'll see about what are the steps in induction program. The steps in induction program, it includes tour of facilities, introduction to the other employees, superiors, and subordinates, description of organizational functions, departmental visit, orientation to philosophy, goals and objectives, and administration, policies, and procedures. So these are the steps of induction program. Now we'll see what the resources required. It is required from public libraries, audiovisual programs, in addition to many books and computers, research activities, and speakers to community groups, schools and universities, association, health worker, and inter-service agency, other nursing homes, and from one's own staff also they get the resources. Now we'll see about the administrative structure. So the basic thing we have to know about what are the administrative policies, philosophies, policies and practices of healthcare agency, policies, practices and standards of nursing and other healthcare professionals, human and material resources, physical facilities, finance resources, centralization, and also centralization versus decentralization. Next, we'll see about the function and role of staff development program personnel. So first thing is as a personnel as a role of a manager. So this includes applies adult learning principles when helping the employees learn new skills or information, coaches employees readily regarding knowledge and skill deficits, actively seeking out teaching opportunities. Now we'll see as it also the personnel or the staff also uses teaching techniques that improves that empowers staffs, is sensitive to the learning deficit of staffs and creatively minimizes these deficits. Frequently assess the learning needs of the units. Function of the manager works with reduction department to delineate shared individual responsibility, ensure that there are adequate staff for staff development, assures responsibilities for quality and physical control of staff development activity, makes appropriate decision regarding educational resource allocation in periods of physical constraints, and ensure that all the staffs are competent of roles assigned, provide input in formulating staff development policies. For the health agencies, determination of administrative structure of the staff development program, determination and establishment of the organizational methods, policies and procedures, determination and establishment of lines of communication for the utilization of facilities and resource personnel for staff development program. Development of measurable short and long-term goals for staff development programs. We have to plan, coordinate and utilize of community resources to assist in meeting these objectives, promotion, development, implementation and evaluation of programs to meet these objectives, provision of a consultative service and a resource for informative relative to staff development. Now we'll see about the standards of staff development program. So there are various standards. So standard one is organizational administration. The nursing service department and the staff development unit as philosophy, purposes, goals, goal addresses the staff development needs of the nursing personnel. Standard two is the human resources. Qualified administrative, educational, and support personnel are provided to meet the learning and development needs by nursing personnel. The standard 3 is the learner. The nursing staff development program assists nursing personnel in identifying the learning needs and planning learning activities to meet those needs. Standard 4 is the program planning. This provides the unit systematic plans and evaluates the overall nursing staff development program in response to healthcare needs. Standard 5 is the educational design. So this educational design, that is education and learning experiences, are designed through the use of the educational process and incorporate adult education and learning principles. Next, standard 6 is material resources and facilities. Material resources and facilities are adequate to achieve the goals and implement the functions of overall nursing staff development. Standard 7 is the records and reports. So the nursing staff development establish a good and well maintenance of record system. Standard 8 is the evaluation. So evaluation is an integral part and is an ongoing and a systematic process which includes the measurement of all the impacts of learning. Standard 9 is the consultation. So consultation, the nursing staff development educators use the consultation process to facilitate and enhance the achievement of the individual, departmental and organization goals. Standard 10 is the climate. Nursing staff development educators fosters a climate which promote open communication, learning and professional growth. Standard 11 is the systematic inquiry. Whereas the nursing staff development educates, encourages systematic inquiry and the application of the results into practice. So these are the standards of staff development program. This is also given by the American Nurses Association. Now we'll see about what are the potential difficulties in staff development program and what are the training should be given. So now we'll see potential difficulties. So what are the potential difficulties faced by during staff development program is, first one is lack of time. Next is inadequate resources at disposal and underfunded training projects, conflicting priorities, lack of clarity about what should be done and what should not be done, and failure to identify or accept the needs, shortfall in training skill or experiences. And next is the main thing is fear of trained employee will leave the organization. So these are the potential difficulties. Now we'll see about the staff welfare. So staff welfare means it is anything done for the comfort and benefit for the employees is called as the staff welfare. This staff welfare helps in keeping the moral and motivation for the employees to promote the growth of the organization. It also improves the staff retention. And the objectives of staff welfare is that to provide a better life and health of the workers, to make the employee happy and satisfied. It relieves industrial fatigue. And another objective of staff welfare is to improve intellectual, cultural, and living status of the employees. Okay. According to a high power committee recommendations, and the staff welfare should be based upon such things, that is employment. There should be employment, and there should be a proper job description, and the working hours should be 40 hours per week, and there should be a compensation for extra working hours and weekly day off, and all the gazetted holidays should be given. And there should be according to the workload should be, and nurses are not responsible for any damages or any loss of materials from the organization. And wages also, uniform pay on the basis of the post has also been paid. And promotion opportunities, so based upon the merit or upon the seniors or seniority, they have to give it promotion and high salary exit. And career developments, provision for deputations for study after 5 years in regular services. And also they have been given opportunities to undergo refresher courses for every 2 years. And they also have been providing accommodations and quarters like that. And transport arrangements have been made for odd hours and during any calamities. That time they have been providing transported, and special incentives should be given for meritorious works. And allowances. The allowances are included diurnal allowances and city compensatory allowances, nursing allowances, uniform allowances and washing allowances have been given to the staff, should be given to the staffs. And occupational safety is very, very essential, and the employees have been advised for medical checkups, and free medical aids have been given. So these are things. And for risk allowances should be concentrated, and also other allowances like children educational scheme should be provided, and also giving so providing a crèche for leaving the babies during the work times. And savings, so these include national savings schemes, social security schemes, and general and public provident funds, gratuity, so they should be given for the employees. And leave benefits, this includes casual leave, early earned leave, maternity leave, child care leave, and commuted leave also should be provided to the employees. And health of the employees is very, very important. So this can be provided by pre-employment health screening and periodical health status review, and by family health education services, and by maintaining health records of the employee, and also giving health benefits like ESI Act, medical benefit, sickness benefit, maternity benefit, disabled benefit, and dependent benefits also should be provided for the employees to maintain the health of the employees. So far we have been discussed about the staff development program. So training is an important part of the staffing and cannot be skipped if the organization if the organization wants to bring out maximum number of employees. Maximum in-service education programs and training programs and continuous education should be provided. Also, training should be provided accurately and in standardized manner. Otherwise, it leads to some wastage of resources, and there should be a proper in-service education program and continuing education for the employees to uplift the organization. Thank you.